Hello and welcome to this episode of the Amory Speaks podcast. This is one of my Lost in Transition video podcast episodes that really doesn't have a home or any place. I don't have a episode number or anything to even really give this one today. I have a lot of different projects going on. But this doesn't seem to really fit the mold into any of them. Which, hey, is going to fit exactly what I'm talking about, because I am going to be speaking a little bit about the times when we feel off or off-centered, something is amiss. There's something out of sorts, out of place, or missing, perhaps. There's that thought lingering, the tip of the tongue kind of cliffhanger-esque. I forgot something feeling. And today is, December 28th. 2024. I might as well at least date this so that we have a relevancy to it. And it fits well because it's the end of the year, wrapping up things. I'm working to close a lot of my projects and everything, which is something that I've been talking about on my channel on Telegram a lot, if you follow me over there. I have been attempting to start quite a few little things, and nothing is quite feeling just right. It's funny. What things are feeling right to me right now are just going through the motions, doing things like cleaning and everyday tasks, shuffling around furniture and getting into places I haven't been into in a couple of weeks or months, dusting, realigning and organizing, doing the shift of all of the holiday decorations and preparing, for the new year, basically. Yeah, and it's perfect because it's just time for that. So maybe as I'm trying to push myself into keeping up with some of my ongoing projects and making new content and doing this sort of conception period activities and energies, it's time to actually slow down and really be a part of the activities that are already growing, already here and taking place, already need those small, steady pieces of input and a piece of my time and energy every day, and to really do those things more mindfully and more presence, and to not be jumping into birthing new things and rushing into the next venture or idea, to really savor in the moment and to watch the growth of what I've already have here and birthed, here and in its infant stages. Things that are growing out of infancy and into that more firm practice too. I have many things that I tend to birth into infancy, see the fullness of where they will venture into, say, adulthood, and then sort of just kick them out the door. And it's funny to give that comparison here after Christmas, here with my children. Here I have two sons. One of them just turned 18 even, and I'm not quick to kick him out of the door either. It's giving things their proper space to feel comfortable in flying free, in walking out the door, in maybe even being nudged graciously or offered that open door and feeling confident in walking through it, you know, or by having that comforting nudge or the press on the hand on the shoulder to know that's the exact last bit of support needed to help them find their footing as they step out into their own reality, making their own choices in their own way. But sometimes with sort of things that I do and make and projects that I get into, yeah, I sort of kick them out, or I put them aside really, and I say, oh yeah, later on I'll get into that a little bit more. I see where it's headed, I get it. And then I go on to something else. But it's perfect because when I circle back to whatever that thing is, I'm ready for that deeper level as well. And the more and more that I teach, learn, and the more that I receive new information, work through it, pass it on, come back to it, refine it, understand it more deeply, and then seek to pass that on further, I'm really grasping the fullness of the image. That it's always this sort of eternal sculpting of the artist, that you're always returning to that, to refine it, to sand something down, to make a section of it more detailed, or whatever the case is. I don't want to get too drawn out in metaphors. I'm sure people will understand what I'm getting at here. There's such a balance that I'm learning to see, and also working continuously to seek. It's a never-ending process, you know. And anyone who doesn't see that, and who doesn't understand the great gravity and can't stand in humble meekness in front of the great ocean that is the small practices, that is the steady work, you know, the path to walk, dare I say the yoke to carry. I love that. I'm so new to this, these references, but I just love the solidity in some of them. And I'm sure, like, people who are so overdone with traditional religion can't, you know, are kind of like bored with those, you know, but sorry, I'm not yet. But learning the balance is part of my journey right now. And I am really enjoying it. I spent most of my day yesterday going through a lot of my notebooks and my work, you know, projects that I have, like I just said, all these things. And all my to-do lists and things that I want to do. And sort of trying to work to refine what I can tackle. And one thing at a time, one thing at a time. How do we slow down enough to do one thing at a time? When a mind like mine, I am easily bored, distracted. I am also, it's so funny because I am such a contradictory person. Such an oxymoron. Living, breathing one. Oh, I wrote a poem like that one time about my husband and I. Yeah, anyways, I won't even try to repeat it now. Maybe I'll share it over on Telegram. Or put it up on YouTube in the community channel too. I forget I have that availability on YouTube. But I find myself, right, easily bored, easily distracted, many different desires, wants, interests, curiosities, intrigues, and yet I am such a person or creature of habit, of habitual schedules, of someone who doesn't actually like change. I can admit it actually now. Before I would kind of maybe over embrace change, but now I'm noticing that in doing that, it's sort of one of those things we do to overcompensate, because perhaps it's something that we have a hesitancy or a fear for. And change for me is always okay when I have planned the change. When I designate it's time for change, or I see a change necessary, it's so funny because I'm right for it. I am ready. There it is. It needs to be done. And yet, if it is not a time that I am feeling it, I could be like that donkey with their heels in the ground and really so stubborn and so pointed as to not do something or want to try something or go for something. If someone is pulling me, forcing, or I have been affronted with change in some kind of oppositional or deterrent catalytic way. I think most people are like this in some kind of ways in different times of their lives, as I am. And I am now working to, go with changes, to feel that hand leading the rein, so to speak, and to go with it more, and to not shy away or feel I have to make a stand against always. And for me, there's, this unique, nuanced lessons, characters, archetype, personality that have to go all along with my life and the different reasons that I've gone through those shades and flavors of lessons. So I won't really spend any time to give, direct examples here and now, because mostly the work is the same, although the things change. The scenarios, the place and faces change. The work remains. And that's also, I think what the gospel word means, and the teaching of truth, and right thinking, that phrase in Taoism or Buddhism. There's this kind of immediate negativity that gets forced. Same thing with command. I went through this in my Deconstructing Distortions video series that I do on YouTube. And it's so interesting, some of these sort of imprinted meanings that we directly go to with words. And I was just started reading this book. I think I might have listened to sections of this. There's many of these books, I believe. Conversations with God. I have listened to a couple different, briefly here and there, some sections of different books of this over on a channel that I like on YouTube. I think it's like Giving Voice to Words, or Giving Voice to the Word, or something like that. And he does a lot of free audio books that are spiritually aligned, beautiful books. And, here it is. I'm like looking through my books on the side here. Probably, I hope there's not too much of a ruckus in the background. Forgive me if there is. But I just started reading the first book. I have 1 and 2 that gifted to me with a huge box of books that I just freely offered and dropped in my presence. So I got to pick a few of them that really resonated with me, and 1 and 2 happened to be in there, so I grabbed them. And I just started reading it last night, but it's very much like this. This thing, I'm just going to jump into the thing that I'm speaking about is about the word. Right? And he says, God is speaking to him, and he asked God about how he talks to people. And he said, I talk to everyone all the time. The question is not to whom do I talk, but who listens. And it says, intrigued, I asked God to expand on this subject. Here's what God said. First, let's exchange the word talk with the word communicate. It's a much better word, a much fuller, more accurate one. When we try to speak to each other, me to you, you to me, we are immediately constricted by the unbelievable limitation of words. For this reason, I do not communicate by words alone. In fact, I rarely do so. Most my common form of communication is through feeling. Feeling is the language of the soul. And this here is, like I've said many a times about mind, body, spirit layers, and how each have their own language, and how the triad of creation in itself, all forms of conscious awareness that get created with the sacred boundary set around them, the teredo of energy that seals something in isness of what it is, set by creator consciousness, it embodies these three things, and it speaks these three languages. And each three parts of us speak, henceforth to those three parts of them most fluently in which language they speak in origin. But they do communicate through to each other, except it's much like trying to learn other languages and then speak to somebody who speaks a different language. But feeling the language of the soul, yes, and as I've said, cymatics is the language of the ether. Frequency is the language of that other imagination space, of that which is the other spirit layer, the other mental layer, the other physical layers even of reality space that we inhabit here, of consciousness that is, in this great placeholder of all that we are. Each one has its own versions. And how important it is to remember this other part here that he says, I love. It's a little bit down further. Let me find it. It says, and finally, when feelings and thoughts and experience all fail, I use words. Words are really the least effective communicator. They are most open to misinterpretation and most often misunderstood. And why is that? It is because of what words are. Words are merely utterances, noises that stand for feelings, thoughts, and experience. They are symbols, signs, insignias. They are not truth. They are not the real thing. Right? And how important it is, and how interesting to me even. I put the book down at that point. I put the book down right now here too. But to see as a writer, as this person is writing to communicate with God, that you would, whether you see these books as a true source connection, a connection to higher self, if you see it as a real channeled, quote unquote, him speaking to God or not, or whether it is something of a subconscious kind of thing, if you want to take it in that direction, whatever. But anyways, interesting to hear that the sort of reply would highlight that truth about the falsity of the written word and of the spoken word and of words in general. When clearly someone who writes their feelings idolizes words. And I know this for myself because I am a lover of words and language and expressing things. But that's because I am a lover of expression and experience and of life in general. And beauty and art and music and form, and having these different ways of expression of self and of otherness and of appreciation of other expressions of that, I believe is a huge part of human creativity, God source, one of its many angles, beams of its rays that hues from the prism, so to speak. But to hear, and to take in and to know that, and I do, what is deconstructing distortions in itself all about? It is that fact right there. When I read that, I said, wow, stranger echoing my own assumptions and knowledge here. And where does that, my own assumptions and knowledge, actually came from? Given my source connection through myself, through my spirit, imagination space, all of these ways, that words that I have learned to choose to stamp on something. But it is a feeling. It is the knowing. It is the truth. It is those messages from God and source that I'm sharing out, that I've received in the dark, the whispers, in the heart, in the knowings, in the pit of the soul, in the gut, deep in the corner of a mind, echo in the back of your ear, whatever, angel and devil on your shoulder, Jiminy Cricket in your conscience, whatever is your, and they can be all and different and varieties of times of your life even, right? Why need to say it's one thing all the time? We shouldn't. For in that doing, that's binding, restricting, that is slavery, that's a negative alignment, looping around in a forced direction that isn't allowed to change. Change and moving through. And back to the beginning of what kind of I set in motion at the start of this podcast, embracing that and getting ready for that in my own time in ways is really, I guess, what I'm doing here, and why perhaps as part of me felt pushed to start all of these different creative endeavors and things that I have been sort of whoa, sort of with the reins. Bring it back to that same exact metaphor that I kind of started off with. That motion of slowing down, that take it easy, not yet. It's about patience and endurance. It's taking our time, breathing into the moments, and really breathing life into them and honoring them with my attention, and doing things conscientiously with that deeper conscious awareness, the light energy, there's a knowing and a feeling in that. Again, back to that. There's this energetic spark, a lightness, literally. It feels lighter. And I've been trying to grasp and explain this with words better in the meditations, and haven't come through great yet with it. I have a couple of movement meditations out already on my old original Amory Speaks YouTube channel from maybe a year ago, 2 years ago. I've done a couple here and there over the years over on my old channel. If you're interested in hearing what they sound like and doing any of them, maybe I'll put some links to them in the description or comments. But this mental movement and feeling the movement of the body whilst sitting still. I have this understanding and seeking to do better meditations to help with that, because I have found great assistance in it. myself from experiences even back as a child, doing gymnastics for many years. Practicing tricks mentally was a huge part of my practice. And visualization, though I was never taught and I didn't really speak about this to anybody else, the mental visualization, the practice of it, was something I enjoyed so much. I used to, as a child, have very vivid dreams, very lucid dreams, have lots of fun in my dreams. My sister and I, my younger sister, would have conversations about it and everything, and be very animated and sharing them and stuff back then. And I used to have tons of gymnastics dreams. And it got to the point where, yeah, before bed sometimes I'd even get into that and be practicing my routines, practicing tricks and stuff. Later in life, I heard through Matt Belair. I really like him. If you aren't familiar with him, he is a wonderful mentor and speaker. He's I believe, like an Olympian. I'm not quite sure. He does a lot of other spiritual work. He might be, I think he was some martial artist as well, but I think he was an Olympic snowboarder, but then he got into Zen and martial arts, and what a wonderful soul. And he has a great podcast, hundreds of interviews with wonderful people. I have some of them even linked to my website because I have found wonderful people through his platform over the years. But he was one of the first people that I heard speak, and he was teaching this sort of through hypnosis and visualization to athletes. And I thought, wow, yes, but this is true, you know? Wow, to hear external confirmation about that. I knew right there back then that it was something great, gravity and importance. And over the years, I've come around to making my own meditations because I have found meditation, guided meditation and self-led meditation, so beneficial, you know. So when I heard him kind of speaking, you know, so openly about it and hearing what great benefits and how many people he worked with and helped and they loved it, I was, you know, greatly inspired. And yeah, knew that that was something, a great worth. And like I said, I've tried out a couple here and there, and again, I'm seeking to do that. I had a wonderful inspiration for a new one, which I'm going to be working through and hopefully sharing at the right time. You know, I've got to learn to stop pressing myself in these kind of things as well. But this idea, it came to me so wonderfully about marionette puppeteering movements, like, and also what a funny, I love to do these kinds of corrections of inversions, the kind of reversal of the inverted trick of the matrix overlay, because I'm sure many people who listen to my channel or bump into my content, you know, are aware of the great control of the theater and Hollywood and television and actors and all of the things that get portrayed on stage for certain reasons and everything, you know. And what the ventriloquist, what the puppet strings, puppet master, all of these metaphors, all of the esoteric symbols, all of the control mechanisms and the things that they're crumbling and they're being shown to us for the light. And it's time that we laugh at them in the light for what they are. Really? That's, you know, how we break the stigmas and the taboo of these things and stop releasing any of our energy even to them in the ways that they expect, want, or can use it, right? Instead, if we address them in the way that we use positive energy and say, well, you're not that scary after all, because I know at the end of the day, I have full control over myself, my mind, spirit, and soul. I have a cognitive, conscious boundary set around me. It's clear as day because I look out my own eyes and only my mouth speaks when I choose to speak. only my thoughts, our feelings, or processes, happen as I am aware of them. There's no other out there who is beating my heart for me, right? And so when we can really step out of the scare tactics or the fear-mongering position that they're trying to impose upon us in their puppet show theater with the lights down and the music and only things angled from this certain position, and everybody getting in the mood to get scared. If we don't allow that and we have full light, it's not really that scary when there's no background music, there's no special effects. You can see all the strings, right? The control is in the, we have to remember where the locus of control remains as we are sitting in the audience, as we live our lives, not give it away, be fully engulfed in places. We're allowing ourselves to do that when we are, even. And you need to take responsibility if that happens and when it does, and pull it back to yourself and claim authority and sovereignty for yourself and your conscious awareness. And when you do, take accountability, you have great power in that. Your light shines brighter. And you say, wait a minute, wow, I didn't need that, I don't need that. And herein, when we have power and we have sovereignty and we have that practice of knowing who we are, where our boundaries are, where our control lies and where it doesn't, then we can really actually use the tools and techniques that marionette string that I'm speaking about. We can use the symbology and the references for actual good working and not worry about being carried away into negative alignments or impressions or infringements or anything, because we're standing righteously in equal light and sovereignty in a full intention of using the tool for good service and benefits, for service to great other, the self, in service to positive unconditional love, positive service to the self. And in that way, we could use our higher self to see ourself, our physical body in imagination space, and to use the higher self as the grand sort of puppet master of the physical body to help bring in sensation of movement and to guide and teach and learn how, yes, actually, when I move and use my mind to think about moving my leg does move. When I think about moving my arm, it does move. But using the space of imagination with visualization to see yourself outside yourself, and to use that version of the metaphor of you seeing your body as a puppet, seeing your body with strings on it and seeing it for what it is, with your higher self, the mind orchestrating those movements, so that maybe even if, like for myself these days, I can't actually do backflips anymore, can't actually stand on a balance beam and do, a couple of flips in a row and nail it. But my brain remembers, my soul, my spirit, the muscle memory of those inner layers is still there. I can do the movements in my mind as accurately as I could back then. It's strange. It's wonderful. It's also a bit sad. And now I feel a bit emotional about it, putting it to light like that, because makes me feel old. It makes me feel, caged in, clunky, heavy, restricted, enslaved in a light that I don't like to see myself in, basically, as well, because I don't want to admit that, I let myself go. But in saying those things aloud and seeing it for what it is, it's kind of like you take a breath of fresh air and say, wow, so what? I guess that's the path that I was meant to go on. I let myself go on this path of journeying, this great circle around the bush. Just circle around and get where I'm at. I always knew I needed the hard road. I always had to make my own way. I have already admitted that earlier here, even in this podcast, right? So there's no harm in admitting. And to say it as well says, well, maybe I want to change. Maybe I want to get close to that again. And it doesn't mean like, oh, I have to be so hard on myself, then I have to go hit the gym and actually become a gymnast again. Like, possibly I could, I guess. Anything is possible. But let's say at the same time, what am I capable of, doing to get closer to that, to ease those feelings, to say, do some work for myself. Of course, first and foremost, you've got to tell yourself lovingly, give yourself space and compassion to be like, I love myself as I am right now. And to not go into immediate crucifixion mode, negative critiquing, like I'm unhealthy, I'm overweight, I hate my body, or why did I let myself get this way? I'm fat, I'm not whatever the case is. And I'm just thinking of random things that people can think of themselves, because I don't even think of myself like that. And if anybody knows me or has seen me in real life, I could never even think that of myself. And I'm physically fit as is. I do yoga every single day. I am physically active, and I take care of my physical vessel because it feels good to me, and I enjoy to honor myself in that way already. But I learned that lesson the hard way as well, because I did really let myself go to almost rock bottoms. So I can remember as well when I was super unhealthy, and know that today, in these days, I'm so much closer, and I've made such progress, and I'm so much more in balance to health and wellness, that when I think about, being able to do the movements of gymnastics on a balance beam again, it's sort of like one of those out there utopian dreams. It's a visualization. It's a concept. It's not something that I know literally I needed to go make as a goal in my life physically right now. And people gauging these things between ourselves, and having yourself true honesty with yourself about what you're really capable of doing, what you're not, with care, and support for yourself it's hard work. I know, it's 10 years that I've circled around and finally been able to come at this with an honest lightness, with a caring eye and an open heart. So I know how difficult it is. I'm not saying that it's easy at all. But maybe offering out meditations like this too is going to help others to ease into it, to do it slowly, to do the things that we're capable of doing mentally, and tapping into those, because they are just as real as the physical movements. And whether you want to go back to penguin parroting out, studies show that this did happen because they did this with basketball players. And they showed that the basketball players who did practice the visualization at night technique before they went to bed hit more three-pointers than the basketball players that did not practice this before they went to bed at night. That's out there. So just for your steady foundation, if that's what you're seeking, there are plenty of those types of versions out there that will solidify your seeking and help you to ground into the practice and try it for yourself. But know that you shouldn't need those either to set foot in your foundation, and to let that cement solidify around you, and to feel good in it and strong in it, and then to move from that place. Give yourself that sense of rootedness, and then find movement from there that feels good. And that's hopefully, what I'm going to be, moving into, especially with the metaphorical language too, and making those meditations more integrated with metaphors and visualizations in language and emotions and feelings, really bringing them together more. So yeah, just to kind of tie it into the other things that I've already talked about, I was really synchronistically bumped into the book and into those same things that I was sort of treading water around in my own life. And that's helped me to really wait patiently till I'm ready to actually go do that meditation, actually ready to go finish out these other projects, actually ready to start 2025, actually ready to, say go back to school even, because we're on Christmas vacation. We'll be spending a bit of time today organizing, my homeschool papers and all of those things. Whereas yesterday I did all my creative endeavors and my personal things. Today I'm going to spend some time doing my other, I don't even know what to call them. I almost wanted to say responsibilities, but I guess, yeah, that's the word I'm going to choose. Balancing the many pie slices of life. There's a beauty in it. There's such an enjoyment in just that I have found. That, yes, there's so much fun in escaping into, there's a Freudian slip there. Stuffed Lenin for everyone. Slip of the tongue and bringing in my favorite thing to do in, the inverting the inversions, discussing the distortions. What a slip that is. But escaping into the spiritual, metaphysical slice of my pie and my creative endeavors, my ratio exploration. I could spend forever, an infinity in just those categories and concepts that I love to speak about, I love to learn and read and watch videos on or talk to people about, discover around, I could spend my eternity doing that. All of my days, hours could go by doing just that. And yet, other slices of my pie need just as much time or more time even. And I get just as lost in them as well. And it's so... now, I have perhaps learned enough segments and sections of the pie and bounced around them enough to sort of started to learn that it is a whole pie for me. Right? And that in seeing them, the segments, factions that they are, I am able to now more harmoniously balance them and integrate and sort of step between them more gracefully, and actually honor them for what they are, better as well, and appreciate them, each slice of pie, each place in time, each role that I step into and embody. It's like a habitat, total atmospheres. And I've talked about this many times with the reality bubbles, and that, with friends and people, and when we make these sort of whole worlds with others. We step into them with a friend, and it's like, it's this whole sort of, setup with them. There's an atmosphere, there's memories, there's energies, that it's just this sort of reality bubble. The integration and the porousness of the osmosis, I guess, is becoming more pleasant and enjoyable for me. And with that, I'm allowing, it's not a rushed kind of, I forgot this over here, back to this, this, that it used to sort of be. And then it took me time to notice even that that's how my mind was doing it. To be able to, slow down on the reins, to feel that guidance that would really know when it's time to move from each to the other. Because the guidance comes from many other things that we're cohabiting and co-creating multidimensionality of realities here. Many things are taking place at one time. And there's currents and ebbs and flows. There's harmonies and melodies and, breezes and all types of things that you've got to pick up on and move through and with. So, as I am more consciously aware of those, I am now being able to give myself even more space to move through this. And I'm sort of echoing, remembering these older epiphanies or connectivities that I had about giving myself more space and time with imagination space. And that came to me, maybe a year or so, year and a half ago, uncovering with the system series and the different layers and understanding that spirit, mental connectivities. And when we open those up, we give ourselves more physical time. Now I feel it's something of giving myself more spiritual time. That allowing for the breath, the pause, the grazing over the entirety to see, is something missing? And maybe that can't make sense or doesn't make sense to everyone. And sometimes it probably doesn't even make sense to me. But it's making sense right now. And for that, I'm grateful. Because what can we really do here? And what am I really doing here? Except trying to air out my own lessons and teachings for myself to alchemize and bring things into better alignment. So I can see myself more clearly. And then, it does. It helps in my day to see others more clearly, to see myself with others more clearly. And then I respond so much more consciously. Yeah. Sort of like right now, almost like savoring the moment. Give yourself time to even slow down in thinking and speaking. So thank you for listening to me while I've come around a roundabout way to sensing the thing that I need most for bringing in balance is slowing down. And giving myself plenty of literal time to interlock my layers, sort of interlock my fingers. When you grasp your hands together, it's like almost like that motion, knitting together, I feel. Except it's these lattice work layers of mind, body, and spirit. Perhaps like a visualization of the bosses holding hands, or shaking hands. Real integration, connectivity of them. And taking time to feel that. Just like when you give a good handshake, you take a moment to hold the hand, give it that squeeze, and look at the person in the eye, and there's that moment that happens there. It's undeniable, it's unexplainable, it doesn't need any words or anything either. And if it's not there, it's not there, because there's plenty of times it's a quick handshake, it's a goodbye, it's something, there's something, there's a divergence, there's a directionality that's not of equal footing, that's not of sovereign recognition, that's not that nod of, I don't know, equality. I guess, that I'm insinuating and hoping to impress upon that is included with this motion, gesture, and visualization. So, thanks for listening to me as I try to air out gain my own correct wordings, and spend time readying myself for change, readying myself for new things, aligning my ducks in my correct, comfortable ways, and before really going for things. So wow, it's been almost an hour. Thank you so much if you listened to me for this long ramble, this episode of my podcast. Not even sure what I'm going to call this one yet, but thanks for listening. And if you're looking for me in the meantime, I post pretty much daily over on Telegram. Things of my original tagline about keeping our ish together: introspection, spirituality, and happiness. Meaning, but there's infographics and memes that I share over there. I sometimes share other people's content, even third-party references or videos that I'm into or liking at the moment, as well as links to all new content on different platforms that I'm offering. So if you've used Telegram, you could find me at Amory Speaks over there. The link's usually in the description of my videos. Or you can always find me amoryspeaks.com, where I have a plethora of free information and services over there. So thank you again for listening and for your energies. Thank you for your beautiful contribution to our collective, because we, of course, would not be the same without you. Thanks for witnessing mine, and I will catch you next time.